the International Secretary of Rotary. Sorry for my accent because I made a mistake before, sorry. You are the General Secretary of Rotary International and also the Rotary Foundation, so it's an honor to have you here. You have the floor to deliver your message, to say exactly what you want, try to convince them at three, but I think they are already convinced that Rotary is really the place to be. You have the floor.
Good evening, everyone. Fellow Rotarians, honorable friends, our esteemed guests. For me, it really is a pleasure to be here at this first Rotary conference at the European Union, and I want to thank all of you for joining us for this very important event. As many of you know, we've had for many years now these sorts of events at the UN, Rotary Day at the UN in New York, and we've been highly successful and very helpful to strengthen Rotary's relationship with the United Nations. And this coming November 11th, we will be shifting locations. We'll be hosting or having Rotary Day at the UN in Geneva on November 11th. So I certainly cordially invite all of you, Rotarians or non-Rotarians, to come to Geneva on November 11th for our inaugural Rotary Day at the United Nations. Now, today's event, and again, Françoise put me on as a judge. She puts people under the microscope, and certainly done the same with me in her opening exhortations. But today's event was organized under the overall title of Rotary Meets the EU. And I think it provides the opportunity to consider how and when and where the policy priorities of the European Union and the main priorities of Rotary International meet and converge, where Rotary's great network of citizens can support the major policy objectives established for the EU. So in short, I'd like to speak about how Rotary can make a positive contribution to Europe's future, as well as to Europe's contribution to the solution of global challenges. And I think that this event is the right time and the right place to have that conversation, because the direction and role of important organizations, including, I think, the European Union, is challenged by this moment of great uncertainty that we see throughout the world. Because we face a clear and growing public frustration, not only with sovereign governments, but also with international and global governance institutions. More and more people, as we've heard, especially young people, feel that they cannot influence or participate in the decisions that affect their lives. So an approach is needed which embraces the strengths of institutions such as the EU to take action at the regional as well as at the global level. And such an approach can only benefit from embracing the strengths of non-governmental organizations such as Rotary to respond to the needs of citizens at the local levels. So with 1.2 million members worldwide and over 300,000 members spread across Europe, Rotary can help shape the future of our communities and our ability to face shared challenges. And these challenges are certainly at the top of all of our minds. Levels of unemployment and the loss of industrial jobs throughout the industrial world have left many members of our communities disillusioned with democratic structure. At the same time, in the face of these challenges, over 65 million people are now either refugees or internally displaced because of conflict and violence, the highest number since the end of World War II. That's a staggering figure if you think about it, the highest number since World War II. Economic instability, devastating violence, deepening economic inequality, rising pollution, and a host of other regional challenges command our attention. And it's clear to me, at least, that any single actor cannot take on these global and pressing issues alone. At Rotary, we believe that we can only respond by becoming a part of smart partnerships in which supranational institutions such as the EU, government, civil society, the private sector, and other multilateral organizations all play an important role. This is why enhancing the relationship between Rotary and the European Union is an important project for us. In June of 2016, Rotary participated for the first time in European Development Days. And this was an important step in identifying common areas for cooperation between Rotary and the European Commission in the pursuit of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And today, we can go one step further and make progress in defining this agenda. As we work to implement the 17 ambitious goals, we must ensure that economic development and prosperity is inclusive of all members of our societies. So for those of you who are not familiar with our work, you may ask, what is Rotary's role in the Sustainable Development Agenda and in building resilient and prospering economies and communities? Our deep reach as a civil society organization that can cross cultural bridges, mobilize people, and transform communities affords us important flexibility for action in support of addressing today's most urgent problems. For example, Rotary's work in spearheading the global eradication of polio is a case in point. In 1985, Rotary, a nonprofit, not a multilateral institution, not a ministry, not a government agency, but a nonprofit, had the audacity, I think that is the right word, the audacity to say, we are going to eradicate a disease from the face of the earth. And we've spearheaded a coalition that has reduced global polio cases by 99.9% since 1988, when we suffered 350,000 cases in 125 countries. Last year, we had fewer than 40 cases in just 3 countries, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and in northern Nigeria. And I'd like to thank the European Commission for its ongoing dedication to the cause, reaffirmed in the written declaration to support the global effort to eradicate polio, with 404 signatories in the European Parliament in June of 2015. And the $251 million that the EC has contributed toward polio eradication has been a tremendous boost to the initiative, as well as the recent €15 million grant to Nigeria. All of these contributions, Mr. Commissioner, have been vital to the success of the cause. So again, on behalf of Rotary, I'd like to thank the European Commission and the European Union for its generosity in helping us make history and eradicate this terrible disease. So thank you very much. But polio eradication, is just one of our causes. With over $1 billion in assets, the Rotary Foundation channels our resources into promoting peace, alleviating poverty, providing clean water and sanitation, supporting education, and growing local economies. Our members have always been passionate advocates for international understanding. Rotary sends 9,000 students from age 15 to 19 every year on various exchange programs. And I have to tell you, as I travel the world, I can't tell you how many international conferences I have attended where I deal with heads of state, ministers, CEOs of major world corporations, that when I begin talking to them and say, I'm with Rotary, they say, oh, Rotary, I was a Rotary exchange student. I went to Chile for 3 months. It changed my life, and I am who I am today, thanks to Rotary. And currently we have hundreds and thousands of men and women whose lives have been profoundly changed through the exchange programs that we organize. We also formed successful partnerships with 7 universities worldwide, 2 of which are in the EU, in Sweden and in the United Kingdom, at least for now they're both in the EU, that host our Rotary Peace Centers. Every year, some 100 Rotary Peace Fellows embark on a rigorously, fully funded academic program of peace studies, complemented by practical experience in the field. And today we have over 800 alumni who have gone through the Rotary Masters Program and our short-term peace and conflict programs in Chulalongkorn in Thailand. So now I'd like to pick up on just a few of our many causes. After eradicating a human disease for only the 2nd time in history, we want to make an increased impact on the goals, which are shared by the EU, to develop the conditions for inclusive, resilient societies to flourish. So let me focus on 2 urgent shared challenges. The first is the migrant crisis, and the second, creating inclusive and equitable growth. In Europe, Rotary members and alumni of our Peace Fellows program are responding to the refugee crisis with an awareness of the urgent need for millions of migrants to integrate and start a better life. We know very well the familiar story of thousands of migrants desperate to start over. We all know the harrowing reports of people leaving Syria, or Iraq, or sub-Saharan Africa, or other regions that are in turmoil. For those fortunate enough to survive their perilous journey, they face the challenge of starting a new life in an unfamiliar country and in an unfamiliar culture. But Rotary members recognize these problems and they're taking action to help. For example, in 2015, Ann-Kajra Reichardt, a Danish Rotary Peace Fellow along living in Berlin, witnessed the flood of 1.1 million migrants entering Germany. And Anne had herself moved to Berlin a few years before and set up the Berlin Peace Innovation Lab in collaboration with Stanford University. She knew that there were tens of thousands of vacant tech jobs in Germany, and she realized that gainful employment was vital for the migrants to integrate into the local culture and into the local economy. So her solution was to create a coding school called Refugees on Rails, for refugees to fill some of those jobs. She partnered with German companies to provide additional training in entrepreneurship and in business skills. Local startups gained a new talent pool to meet their growing needs, and migrants are able to enhance their employment prospects while their asylum applications are processed. And to date, 200 people have volunteered to help, and tech giants Microsoft and Deutsche Telekom have joined the effort and are collaborating and producing venues and areas where these courses can take place by donating office space. So this is just one example of how Rotary is applying its special blend of local knowledge and international reach to a problem of major proportions. So now let me speak about the second major European challenge identified earlier, creating inclusive and equitable growth. In Rotary, we believe that the terms economic growth and quality of opportunity will remain empty slogans if they do not reflect a genuine focus on improving societies. Economic growth is not sustainable if it broadens gaps in prosperity, and equality of opportunity is meaningless for the long-term unemployed. With the EU-wide youth unemployment rate currently at around 20%, disparities must be addressed. That is, namely, the gap between the current capacity of educational systems and the skill sets required by the 21st century marketplace. Our philosophy is that mentorship, new models of vocational training, and entrepreneurship initiatives are just as crucial as educational reforms in equipping young people with the skills that they need. So in 2016, we honored 6 members, 6 Rotarians, with the Rotary Responsible Business Award to recognize those who have improved communities through expanding employment opportunities, job training, mentoring, and inclusive innovation. Now, one of the first winners of the award, Jean-Paul Faure, of the Rotary Club of Cannes-Grimaldi in France, is a champion of young entrepreneurs. Jean-Paul launched a business contest called Le Trophée du Rotary in 2011, designed to reward and promote the best new businesses in Southeast France, with additional training and funding with the help of a major bank, Société Générale, and the Regional Chamber of Commerce. So responsible business is also what consumers, employees, and investors want. And we heard of this in John in his outstanding presentation. They know that the sustainability of companies is inextricably linked to the sustainability of their social impact. But it's not always easy to seamlessly integrate positive social impact into the DNA of a company's mission. Civil society networks such as Rotary that can align commerce and cause and unlock the significant potential of the private sector as a key engine of sustainable growth are so vital and very vital and important to the success of the Sustainable Development Goals. As the 17th SDG makes clear, collaboration will be vital, and there's plenty of proof that it can work. The Global Polio Eradication Initiative is a powerful example of governments, business, and civil society organizations all around the world working together in pursuit of a measurable goal. In fact, I think one can say with all seriousness that the Global Polio Eradication Initiative is probably the most successful public-private partnership ever in the field of global health. So with the 17 Sustainable Development Goals and 169 accompanying targets, no single government can take on the task alone. We know that with fixed administration costs, policies and priorities can shift, making continuity on a national and local level problematic. It's also a challenge to measure progress for some of the goals. This is why innovative methods of accountability and implementation must define our approach. We must also rethink the role of the private sector and ensure that we bridge the divide between private expertise and private capital and public challenges. Now, there are already 2 clear avenues to foster collaboration and to unleash the potential of the private sector for sustainable development. First, governments and multilateral institutions can take a lead in analyzing the 169 goals, dividing them into ones where the central government has to lead, ones where the local governments have to be involved, and ones that require special involvement from the private sector and civil society, and ones where progress can only be made with international cooperation. And looking at the EU, I can see that initiatives such as the Circular Economy Action Plan have already been designed to address a good number of the SDGs linked to economic development. Secondly, stakeholders, including civil society, can incentivize private sector involvement and innovate to provide measures of success and structures of accountability that will outlast political cycles. And today we have new tools and measures at our disposal to enhance collaboration and innovation for greater social impact. For example, since social impact investing became part of the G8 agenda in 2013, new models for harnessing the power of nonprofit and private interventions are proliferating. However, for many years it was difficult to answer the question, how do you blend and measure social and financial returns? How do you make social impact a core part of the business model of a corporation? It goes beyond just corporate social responsibility, that goes beyond just check writing. And we can say that this today is no longer the case. Today we have concrete figures to determine the cost of social and environmental challenges and the economic impact of preventive action. For example, right here in Brussels, it's estimated that the state saves 35,000 euros per migrant who finds employment. The first Belgian social impact bond, SIB, is attempting to reduce unemployment among young migrants, matching them with local retirees who used to work in their field of employment interest, who will advise them and also make connections with suitable employers. SIBs are a pay-for-success model to help governments fund critical social programs through a combination of government initiation, private investment, and nonprofit implementation. Should 1/3 of the participants find employment, the state could realize a savings of around 2 million euros, a figure over 8 times higher than the initial cost of the intervention. So this SIB is innovative in identifying networks as a central problem to migrants, rather than purely focusing on education. And empirical research tells us that the networks fostered by volunteer organizations have the greatest potential to deliver longer-term material gains, such as employment opportunities. So, to address the migrant crisis and to overcome barriers to inclusive economic growth and integration, we must leverage the new tools and the long-standing community networks in order to create new opportunities for collaboration between NGOs, governments, and the private sector. And with an ever-strengthening relationship between Rotary and the EU, I'm confident, very confident, that we can continue our interaction to identify possible areas of cooperation leading to the development of conditions for inclusive, resilient societies to flourish. Thank you very much.